The ancient city-state of Sparta is one of the most interesting societies that people have read about. Sparta has long been a sign of discipline, courage, and strength because of its legendary warriors, strict way of life, and strong military strategies. But beneath the well-known stories of Spartan bravery is a society that is complicated and subtle, full of strange customs, practices, and deep paradoxes. Their brutal school system. The Spartan schooling system, called the agoge, showed how dedicated the city-state was to becoming the best warrior possible. This tough exercise program wasn't just a part of Spartan life, it was what it was all about. Spartan boys were taken from the comfort of their homes when they were only 7 years old and put into a world where power, discipline, and survival skills were important. There were many parts to the agoge that were all meant to make boys into the perfect Spartan. The process was very hard and included martial arts, survival skills, and a lot of physical training. The boys lived in shared barracks and had to follow a strict schedule that included few meals, hard physical work, and endless exercises. The goal wasn't just to turn their bodies into weapons, it was also to teach them the Spartan values of endurance, toughness, and independence. The agoge wasn't just about physical strength, though. It also put a lot of emphasis on moral and intellectual schooling. They learned to read and write, as well as music, dance, and laconic wit, which is the art of having a clever chat. They learned the rules of Sparta, the poetry of Sparta, and the stories of its heroes. The goal of the agoge was to make well-rounded people who could be useful to society both on and off the battlefield. A surprisingly free place for women. Ancient women in Sparta had a level of freedom and independence that was almost unheard of in the rest of the world. They were not just housewives. They were important parts of Spartan society and were respected for their intelligence, strength, and ability to have children. The Spartan way of life, which valued mental and physical toughness, was the same for both men and women. In ancient Greece, girls and boys were taught together from a very young age. This was only done in Sparta. Aside from reading, writing, and math, they learned music, dance, and sports. Spartans put a lot of value on being physically fit because they thought that strong women would have healthy children. There were games for girls like wrestling, running, and throwing discus and javelin. Because they put so much emphasis on fitness, Spartan women were known all over Greece for being strong, beautiful, and graceful. Spartan women were also the only ones who could own and manage their own land. So much so that women often ended up owning most of the Spartan wealth because so many Spartan men died in battle. Because they could make money, they had a big part in Spartan society, bigger than the roles of women in other Greek city-states. Even getting married was different in Sparta. It was very uncommon for women in Greece to get married before they were in their early 20s or late teens. It's important to remember, though, that the freedoms Spartan women had were eventually tied to the city-state's focus on war. People thought that giving them these freedoms would make their children healthier and the Spartan state stronger, so they were free to train, fight, own property, and say what they thought. The murderous death squads. One of the most problematic and cruel parts of Spartan life was the Crypte. After finishing their training in the agoge, it was a rite of passage for the young Spartan men. It was the last test of their skills and readiness to become full-fledged Spartan fighters. But the Crypte wasn't just a test. It showed how the Spartans dealt with power, control, and social order in a very scary way. There are many different historical stories that give different details about what the Crypte was like. The young men were sent into the countryside with only a knife and told to live on their own for a certain amount of time. This is what most people agree on. This test was meant to see how tough, resilient, and able to live off the land they were. These were all very important skills for a Spartan fighter. Some sources, though, say that the Crypte has a darker side. It is said that the young men were told to kill the helots, who were Sparta's slaves, that they came across during their survival test. Not only was this a test of their martial arts skills, but it was also a way to scare people and keep the population in check. The helots were many times stronger than the Spartans, and the danger of the Crypte kept the Spartans scared and obedient. The horrible food they ate. Extreme economy and simplicity were important to the Spartans, and this was clear in every part of their food. Spartan meals were known for being cheap, which was very different from the fancy feasts that other ancient societies had. They weren't that simple because they didn't have enough resources. They chose to be that way on purpose, in line with the Spartan ideals of moderation and self-discipline. The most well-known Spartan food was black broth. which was just pork, blood, vinegar, and salt mixed together. People who weren't raised with it were said to dislike it so much that a visiting Sybarite, whose city is known for its excess and luxury, joked that he now understood why Spartans were ready to die in battle. In the end, death was better than living on that kind of soup. But for the Spartans, the black soup was more than just food. It stood for the way they lived. It showed how much they valued equality, simplicity, and being able to take care of themselves. All Spartan men, no matter what their social rank, ate the same food in the public mess rooms called syssitia. There weren't any fancy dishes for the rich or small amounts for the poor. Everyone was the same because they had all been through the black soup. The Spartan diet was also useful in real life. Because the meals were simple and always the same, the Spartans could focus on their work and training without being sidetracked by tasty treats. The Spartans' diet was also high in protein and nutrients, which gave them the energy and strength they needed for their hard physical tasks. They always had the last word in an argument. Not only were the Spartans known for being strong and living a simple life, but they were also known for being smart and using few words. The style of speaking that is short and to the point is called laconic wit, after Laconia, the area of Greece where Sparta is located. The way the Spartans talked was very simple, just like their way of life. This way of talking has left a lasting mark on history. The Spartans didn't just use short, sharp words. They often mixed them with a bit of dry humor. This was because of how they were trained and how they thought, which values being straightforward, simple, and useful. It was important to them to get right to the point. They didn't have time for flowery words or long arguments. One of the most famous examples of this is what Leonidas, king of Sparta, did when the Persians told the Greeks to put down their weapons at the Battle of Thermopylae. Leonidas's answer was a simple molon labe, which means come and take them. This short saying says everything you need to know about the brave and defiant Spartan spirit. Philip II of Macedon, who had already taken over most of Greece, sent a message to Sparta that said, "If I enter Laconia, I will destroy Sparta." This is an example of how the Spartan ephors responded. There was only one word in the Spartans' answer, if. This short but strong answer showed how brave and determined they were. Not only were these short responses smart, they were also a way to attack people's minds. They showed how confident and determined the Spartans were, which often made their enemies scared and unsure. The Spartans knew that one could use words to their advantage in war, just like they could use weapons. How they decided which babies to raise. One of the scariest things about Spartan society was that babies were killed. The Spartans were very picky about who could join their army, and this was done from the time they were born. If a baby was born with any problems or was thought to be weak, it was left on a mountain to die from the cold. The Spartans were very focused on being strong and perfect, and this practice, called exposure or discarding, showed it very clearly. The choice to reveal a child was not made without much thought. When a baby was born, it was bathed in wine to see how strong it was, and then a group of elders looked at it. The babies were taken to the apothete, a chasm at the base of Mount Taygetus, and left to die if they were weak or badly shaped. The Spartans thought that only the best people should live and help others. The Spartans thought that this cruel practice was essential to keep their race strong and pure. It's important to remember that this wasn't just done in Sparta, it happened a lot in the old world. But because Sparta put so much value on physical strength and military power, it became especially ingrained there. The Spartans thought that everyone should do something to help the community, and people who couldn't were seen as a burden. The weird way they got married. The way the Spartans married was just as strange and different as the rest of their society. These rituals, which were full of meaning and custom, were meant to raise healthy children and keep society peaceful. In contrast to many other ancient societies, marriage in Sparta wasn't about love or politics. Instead, it was about making strong Spartan fighters for the next generation. The bride capture rite was one of the strangest parts of Spartan marriage. Once the wedding was set up, the man would abduct his bride, often with the help of his friends. This was just a sign. The bride knew what it meant and agreed to it. Spartans thought that fighting and competing were good things, and the ceremony was a nod to that. Following the capture, the bride would shave her head and put on men's clothes. After that, she would be locked in a dark room by herself until her groom came to claim her. Spartan men used to live and sleep in communal barracks with other men until they got married. This rite was thought to help them make the change easier. Men in Sparta usually got married when they were in their late 20s or early 30s, which was much later than men in other Greek city-states. This was because until that age, they were supposed to live in the barracks with other people and do their military tasks. But Spartan women generally got married when they were in their late teens or early 20s. Most married people didn't move in together right away after getting married. The guys kept living in the barracks for everyone, but they would sneak out to see their wives. This deal could last for a few years, or until the man was freed from living with other people. Money without coins. The Spartans had a unique way of handling money that fit with their philosophy of simplicity and economy. Sparta's money was made of iron bars instead of coins made of valuable metals like gold and silver, which was the norm in most ancient Greek city-states. This was a choice that was made on purpose to discourage people from getting rich and encourage equality among its members. Obols were the name for the iron bars that the Spartans used as money. As a result of being big and heavy, they were hard to move in large groups. They were also dipped in vinegar while they were still hot, which made them break easily and useless for anything else. This made sure that the iron money didn't have much value on its own and couldn't be used for other things like making guns. This Spartan method of money was useful in many ways. The iron bars were not valuable to people outside the building, so they stopped people from stealing. Second, it stopped people from hoarding money because the physical structure of the money made it hard to do so. Lastly, it made trade with other states less likely, which kept Sparta independent and away from outside influences. The fact that the Spartans used iron coins shows how much they cared about fairness and living together. In Sparta, someone was considered wealthy not by how many things they owned, but by what they did for the state. People there put the good of the group above their own personal gain, and they thought that trying to get rich was a distraction from their job to the state. Festivals are better when everyone is naked. This was one of the most important and unique events in the Spartan calendar. It was called the Festival of the Gymnopaedia, or the Festival of Naked Youths. This event happened every year and was a celebration of music, dance, and physical strength. It was an important part of Sparta's social and cultural life. The Gymnopaedia took place in the middle of summer and had boys and young men from all walks of life in Sparta. They would show off their strength, agility, and grace by doing war dances and athletic performances while they were naked. Not only were these shows of physical strength, but they were also a way for the boys to get military-style training. They learned rhythm, timing, and how to move together, all of which were very important on the battlefield. A big part of the Gymnopaedia was the music. The performances had songs, and the aulos, an old Greek wind instrument, played in the background. A lot of the time, these songs told stories about brave and heroic Spartans. They did this to teach the values of bravery, discipline, and selflessness. The Gymnopaedia was also a social event that brought the whole Spartan society together. It was a chance for the young men to show that they were ready to serve the city-state, and it was a chance for the older men to judge the next generation of fighters. It was also a chance for families to show what they had done for the state, since their kids' performance showed how well they were liked in the community. So, the Festival of the Gymnopaedia wasn't just a party, it was also an important part of the Spartan military and school system. The Spartans thought it was important to be physically fit, have a rhythm, and work together. It also helped to keep the principles and ideals that were at the heart of Spartan society alive. We hope you liked this video, subscribe to the channel if you're a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.